Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. All right, helping people see. How do we help people see? What do we help them see? Why do we help them see? This is a discussion, follow-up to a discussion that we had with Catalyst around helping people see, and also building off some work that was happening in parallel. There's a lot of different touch points where all of it seems to be related. All of the challenges seem to be related with helping people see, and how do we bring it all together, and what kind of gap exists in this idea of creating something from nothing, but also synthesizing much information and many different inputs. So let's talk about helping people see. And today's Detangler is brought to you by the Orchestration Org. And what is orchestration? And what is orchestrating? And what are these lines? What's happening in the middle? And what can be created there? And how do we unify seeing? How do we all see the same thing? How do we talk about the same thing? How do we relate to the same things? Is that even possible? Is that even doable? Is that even what we're supposed to be doing? Those are what we're going to explore here in the Detangler. So have you ever ridden a roller coaster? What roller coaster is this? This is Space Mountain. What do you think about Space Mountain? Have you ever ridden the roller coaster at Space Mountain? This is what it looks like on the inside. Do you like roller coasters? Well, it depends on who you ask. Some like them, some don't. What about steak and food? Does this look good to you? How would you answer that? What about grocery store? What happens at the grocery store? I like these things. I don't like these things. What about on vacations? What happens there? Some people love the beach. Some people hate the beach. Some people agree this is a great vacation destination. Some people can't see why the other people would sit on the beach. Some people love BTS, the pop rock musicians. And when it comes to music, people might think they're awesome or they suck. What about where you choose to live and where others choose to live? How do you choose to live when you think of a neighborhood? What about when you go to Wegmans or the grocery store and you want wine? What happens there? Oh, I think I'll try it, or I don't think I'll try it. What about temperature? What's too hot for me might be too cold for somebody else. What about art? What do you think about this art? Some people think it's awesome. Some people think it sucks. What about olive oil? Yes, olive oil. Whole store of just olive oil. What do you think about olive oil? Have you ever tried it? Would you try it? What about the jalapeno flavored olive oil? What about content? What do you think about content? What do you think about meetings? In-person meetings? What about plants? Would you eat this? If you're starving, would you eat it? What about virtual meetings? Are they productive or not? What about conferences? What do you think about conferences? How about consultants? What about teams? How about change? What about the hero's journey? Now, let me ask you something. What's common in all these? All these things. What's common? How would you answer that? What's common across everything that just happened and everything I asked you about? How would you answer that? Well, it's likely, if you're like me, when I answered these, this is what I wrote down. I made snap judgments based on what was presented. It was binary, black and white. I either liked it or I didn't. My past history and my past discussions and my past knowledge informed my choices. Those choices matter to me. And all day long, I make choices like that. How I choose to allocate my time. How do I choose what to eat? How do I choose who to talk to? How do I choose what to do? What I should be doing right now? What I shouldn't be doing right now? All day long, those choices affect what I do. And I get to define those individually. Very, very little input is mandatory these days. It's suggested that I do a lot of things, but do I have to do it? And in that view, I can be as biased as I want to be. And that's actually encouraged. And it's actually okay. It's okay to be biased against the beach. It's okay to be biased about olive oil. So it's okay to be biased. You might get ribbed about not liking roller coasters, but what about being biased against content? What about being biased against consultants? That's okay too. And all of these are about what's right for me and what's wrong for me. And it depends. That's a challenge when I think about bringing a lot of people together. What is this to you? How would you answer that? You might answer that conceptually. You might answer it as technically, it's a bunch of black lines on a white piece of paper. You might answer with how it makes you feel. You might answer with, it's a partially filled in cube, literally. All of these things that we've been talking about so far, to me, are perspective, or are they something else? This is my wrestling with the orchestration orb. What is it? What does it help me do? I want to be black and white. I want to be binary. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it useful? Is it not? Do you get it or you don't get it? Do you trust it or you don't trust it? This is what I do all day. And then here comes the orchestration orb, or here comes a weird meeting where it takes 40 minutes to figure out what we're even talking about. What is that? What is it? In the Sales and Ailment Society, Scott put out this letter to members, and in that he talked about having this 2-point perspective. And it got me to thinking this morning when I was trying to figure out 4 people coming together in a meeting, taking 40 minutes to understand what the meeting's about. What is that? And then what if there were 100 people or even 1,000? How do you unify that? Is that even possible? What creates unified view or thinking or action even? How does that happen? How does that happen? Is it about telling people, making them, putting a gun to their head? How do you do that? 2 people here, 4 people. How do you get 2 people to align? How do you get them to see the same thing and share the same understanding? How do you do that with 4 people? What does that look like? What is that? And if I take all of these binary actions, all these negative things, where on the left side, I put those from our pictures at the beginning, and I put on the right side all the right side stuff, what is this? And what am I trying to do? Bring them all together? What am I trying to do? How does that all work? What is this? Can I make all these line up? Is that what I'm trying to do? Right? What about sales objectives? Like, don't like? What about the idea of go to customer, get it, don't get it? What about stone soup? Bet my career, don't bet my career. What about Detangler as a team member? Right? We want to make these binary decisions. We want to see things in black and white. In fact, we do that all day long. But people are different. Everybody's got something different that they brought to the table. What is it that brings them together, though? It puts them into the puzzle. Is it choice? Is it freedom? Is it the exact same thinking? Is it the exact same history, the exact same experience? Is it the exact same reading? Do they have to read the same things? What is it that brings them together and then allows them to work together as a unit and create something from nothing? So that's the challenge that I have been working through today. What is that? And, I had a conversation with Activator and we looked at the scientific methods site and what is it? And one of the things I think it has to relate to is this idea of perspective. And we haven't put out, I don't think we've put out a lot around perspective, but I think perspective is key here to engaging with us. And I think I'm curious about how much time Catalyst puts into shaping people's perspective so that they can perceive things differently. This is a little bit of this might sound like a play on words, perception and perspective, but these are actually completely different. And I wanted to slow down there and unpack that. What is the difference between perspective and perception? Well, I found this chart. Perspective is the way of regarding something. Perspective it can be influenced by attitude, and perspective is how we look at things. And how we look at things can influence how we perceive them. And isn't perceiving what we see? Isn't perceiving what we see? If I perceive something, aren't I seeing it? So my perspective can influence what I see. What's my perspective about something impacts what I see about something. Perception is the way we think about and understand. Perception can be influenced by past experiences, and perceptions can be affected by perspective. And I think one of the things that Catalyst does is change people's perspective. And I think that's a key ingredient of helping people see. And there's a depth to changing people's perspective. It goes to their heart of their being to change people's hardwired perspectives about things. I should know, I've been doing it for years, right? So what is that and how does that help people see? And I was trying to untangle that. So what is perception? What information do I really need to see something? Was it about information or is it about my perspective? What do I need to change about my perspective in order to see? That's a completely different question. But the reality of what I observe, and then I go through this process, this nonlinear process of perceiving, and that perception impacts my thinking. So that's a critical ingredient, I think. So I was thinking about this and I'm like, it's kind of like snowflakes and goggles. Well, what do I mean like that? Well, to me, if we have 100 people or 4 people, they're all snowflakes. They're all going to be completely different. They're all completely different and unique about how they think about things. And how they think about things, I can't change that, but I can help them see differently. And the challenge with helping them see is that their goggles that they wear are also completely unique. Everybody sees the world slightly differently through the goggles that they're wearing. And if we can impact what they see with the goggles that they're seeing, we can maybe change their perspective by changing what they see. And that changes what they perceive. We can do that. Okay. That's the key thinking that I think is worth exploring for me. And what I'm trying to figure out is, what is that? And how do I lean into this and help people see differently? What if they're all snowflakes and they're all unique? And then how do I understand the goggles that they're wearing? And then can I change and help them put on a new set of goggles? What if I gave them go to customer goggles? How would I do that? Because they're wearing go to market goggles. How do we help people equip to go to customer goggles? Because whenever they try to do something different, if they have the wrong goggles on, they're going to perceive it differently because of that perception goggles that they have on. So that led me to ask a question, can we unify perception? Can we unify perception? Can we make people entertain a new perspective? Can we make that happen? How do we make that new perspective happen? If we can't make that new perspective happen, then they won't change their perception. They won't change what they see unless they embrace the new perspective. So how do I help people embrace a new perspective so that they see the importance of detangling, for example? And I have to ask myself, what might people be thinking, or what don't they know and what don't I know? What experiences have they had in the past? Or how is somebody's goals different than mine? I think these are examples of perspective. If they have a different perspective, they're going to see different things. So how are they seeing our backgrounds compatible? How are they seeing the meeting unfolding? How are they seeing their goals in relation to mine? So some of the techniques that I'm seeing that Catalyst uses, where do we agree? And starting there. What are the yes, no, exit row confirmations that we need from people? Which I think is why he's so big on checklists. Though let me repeat back what we're hearing. I think that's why it's so important, because everybody has a different perception. Even if they say they agree with go to customer perspective, doesn't mean they have the same perception, right? So how would we help them draw a picture? Ask them what they see, what comes to mind when I share that? Because this idea that I think is prevalent in sales is this belief that perception is reality, but it's not. Perception is not reality. Perception is not reality. Here's the definition of perception: is interpreting something. It's the interpretation. How do we impact that definition of reality and help them perceive a new reality? The perception we have of reality is different than most people's. We have to help them see our perception, how we perceive it. We have to help them get over there to put on the new goggles. How do we do that? What do they need to put on the new goggles so that they perceive and see the power of sales objectives? So they see the power of, possibility selling. If they don't have the perspective that go to customers is the way forward, if they don't have the perspective that customers are the ones that we need to be talking to, if they don't have the perspective that people are the ones that write checks, not markets, if they don't have the perspective of all these things that we believe, they don't have those perspective, when we slide over a sales objectives, they're just going to see because they have the wrong goggles on. So C slides are critical. There's also the technique, I think, and also the depth and the volume of what we need to help people embrace a new perspective. We help them by changing their perspective as much as we help them by changing and providing the depth of detail around the slides. So what have I learned? I think knowing that our way of seeing the world is neither wholly accurate nor anywhere close to complete is a prerequisite. I used to think I knew everything. Without the ability to adopt alternate viewpoints, I actually became a slave to my own emotions, trapped inside a destructive mindset. And that was an unchangeable fact until I opened up my perspective. In order to adjust and adapt to new situations, I needed to be accustomed to the idea that there are many, 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 many ways to sell and market and teach and learn and work. not one, not my way, many. And because of this, there are many, 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 many ways to interpret other people's past work experiences. And if I didn't open my mindset and have softer eyes and change my goggles, I'd get easily disrupted. So I had to learn how to put on the hero suit. How do we do that? And without that, these experiences and beliefs would be under attack. And it's just easy to think everybody's stupid or everybody doesn't get it. Or I used to think, well, that's on them. That's their problem. They're idiots. And that I can't allow myself to think that way now. I have to help them see it because they've got their glasses on and those have been built from time. And the only way to do that is to practice understanding other people's ideas and beliefs, to have more empathy and figure out what they need to see, which will impact their overall perception. Their perception about go-to-customer is built by leaning into being curious about sales objectives. And to me, we're talking about shifting paradigms. Here's a paradigms. There is no truth. There's only perception. Perception is not reality. It's our perception of and what we see about reality. And to me, we're talking about changing reality for people. So how do we help them see the new reality, embrace the new reality? What would that look like? So to me, it's about helping them see and helping them listen, right? What's the barriers to helping them see and listen? Then what's the barriers to choosing us and choosing what we say as true? What's the barriers then to positively evaluating what we're saying instead of chucking it out the window? And then what's the way we overcome what they used to think? And when they start digging up the past and remembering all these things of getting inspected by the man, how do we help them overcome what they remember about go-to-market? Because that's their perception. And that perception isn't true anymore because perception does not equal reality. So when we ask them to see and hear something different and select something different and evaluate us in a different way and remember us as a path forward, they're going to just say it's good or bad because they're making choices along the way. And that's what we're impacting is their paradigm. Their paradigm is critical. And if we don't help them see the paradigm that it's something like this, then how, and then more importantly, how do we help them see this? And then do they need to see this? I don't know. That's my struggle is how do I build C slides to help this along? So that's me having courage about why it's so damn hard to orchestrate and connect the dots and leading with me around some of the challenges I've had with perspective and perception and the idea that perception isn't reality anymore. And putting on the hero suit helps me change my perspective. But now what can I build and what can I do and what can I create to help other people change their perspective? And then we believe fundamentally in a new truth, a fundamental truth, a new truth that other people don't. And at some point, we're going to get to the point where they have to choose the new truth. So what do they need to choose that new truth and opt in? And that's the process they have to trust. So that's the Daily Detangler for today. Let me know what your thoughts are. Appreciate Activator's help on thinking this through today. And let me know what you think. Take care.